I'm frequently asked for my recipe for sourdough bread, but the truth is it's 99% process and 1% recipe. It's basically flour, water, pinch of salt. I've done my best to write down the process, but I'm a visual learner, so I thought I'd try to capture everything in a short video. And you don't need all the fancy items. You don't need a rattan proofing basket. You don't need the razor blade on a stick. But there are three things that you do need. You do need a good Dutch oven or some oven-proof vessel with a lid that can withstand about 500-degree temperatures. You will need a good digital scale. It's not so much about precision, but consistency, especially when it comes to feeding your sourdough sponge or your starter. You want to make sure that if you're adding 62 grams of flour, you're adding 62 grams of water. It just makes everything repeatable. So, and then the third thing you're going to need is a healthy starter. I started this one about 9 days ago. And I've been doing double feedings for the past week, and it starts off as kind of like a thick oatmeal, but as you can see right now, it has risen. I fed it last night about 10 p.m. and it is just, it's full of air and it is ready to go. So to get started, the first thing you want to do, as our recipe is just flour, water, and a little bit of salt. We're going to go ahead and add 300 grams of the starter. I'm going to stir this up a little bit. And it's about 3/4 of what we're using here, and that's a little too much. And that's perfect. We'll set that aside. And then to this we're going to add 230 grams of water, which is pretty much 1 cup. So we're going to zero that out. There we go. And you just want to mix this up so that when we add our flour, it all comes together properly. So now it's just really, really thin. And now we're going to add about 480 grams of flour. When I was originally doing these recipes, they called for about 460 grams, which the dough will be sticky, but at that level it would stick to everything. It was not very easy to work with. So I found 480 grams to work really well. Went over a bit. Perfect, 481. Now to start off with, we're just going to stir this up. And get it to what is, just want it incorporated. You want the flour off the sides. Won't be anything close to dough yet. You just want to kind of get to this mass of dough and flour. What we're going to do is we're just going to cover it and let it sit like this for about 25 minutes. And this will allow the water and the flour to properly hydrate, and it'll come back and it'll be much more like a dough. Go ahead and cover it. Press and seal. We'll put this over the top. Leave it for 25 minutes and come back. Now, one thing you can do to mess everything up is forget to add your salt. We don't add the salt yet, but you want to add it before you start kneading it. I have left it out before, so what I do is I just set my salt on the mixer stand so I can't start mixing without it. So we'll be back in about 25 minutes and see where we are. Okay, it's been about 25 minutes. The dough is now hydrated properly, the flour and the water have now formed a sticky dough. We're going to go ahead and add 10 grams of salt on top. Attach our dough hook. Then we're going to mix it on speed number 1 for about a minute, and then I will go ahead and turn it up to speed number 2 for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. I'll stop periodically to pull the dough off the hook, just to make sure everything kneads properly. We'll go ahead and get that started. Okay, so now you've got this really sticky dough ball. But fortunately the gluten strands are tight enough that while they stick to your hand when you pick it up, they will release. So what you want to do is knead it by hand for about another 4 minutes. Okay, after about 4 minutes of kneading, your dough is now much more consistent, and it's still quite sticky. So what we're going to do is put down a little bit of flour. Make a disc and kind of roll it out. And then what we're going to do is, now that it's not sticking on the bottom, we're going to roll it up into itself, turn it over, and start making the shape of our loaf. It's still really loose at this time. You can see as I gather it together, it just kind of lays out. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this one rest, and all I'm doing is kind of pushing it under itself. I'm going to let it rest for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to reshape it again. So let's go ahead and cover it, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. And now we're going to do what's called a stretch and fold. We're going to do this 2 or 3 times, about every 5 minutes, and it's just going to help the dough keep its shape. So we're going to pick it up, and we're just going to kind of stretch it out just a little bit. Take it out, fold it back over itself, turn it around, stretch it out, fold it over itself, and then again on the outside. And then we're just going to keep doing this cupping motion again to bring it down and tighten up the outside and turn it back into a loaf. Now doing this 3 or 4 times or 2 or 3 times will help it really hold its shape and get it ready for the next rise. So go ahead and do that, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, this is the 3rd time I'm doing the stretch and fold. It actually seems to be holding its shape pretty well. And I'm all about cutting corners to save a little bit of time. Normally, if I made this and it was just kind of going all over the place, I might do it 2 or 3 more times. But this is actually holding its shape pretty well. And it's actually a lot different than it was half an hour ago when we pulled it out of the mixer and it was just kind of sticky mess. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and give it about an hour rise. Just going to drop it in a bowl and cover it and let it do its thing. Put it this way. Okay, the bread has had a chance to rise for about an hour. Now we're just going to pull it out. You'll need a bread scraper or something to get it out because it will be sticky. We'll pull this out on the counter. Now we're going to do the same kind of stretch and fold. It's a lot looser now, full of air. We're going to flip it over and then back over itself. And we're just going to turn it, get that underneath like this. There's a lot of air being generated. rid of that. And we'll just cover that up. We'll do this probably 2 times, maybe 3 times, and then we'll get ready for the final proof. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do another stretch and fold. The dough is really loose now. Go ahead and roll it over. I think I'll do one more. It's actually really, I don't know if you can see that, but really full of air right now. So okay, we'll do it one more time and then we'll get ready for the final rest. Okay, this will probably be our final one. But what we're going to do is we're going to need to let it rest another hour in the rattan proofing basket. You want to make sure you've got plenty of flour in here. So I'm going to throw probably 2 or 3 tablespoons in, and we're just going to work it around into it. Make sure you're nice and covered, because this dough does get sticky when it rests for an hour or so. This flour will keep it from sticking, because when you pull it out of here and drop it into your oven, you don't want it to stick at all. So there we go. So get rid of a little bit of that. We're ready to go here. So this is the last one. We'll do one more stretch and fold. Go over. There's lots of gas bubbles in here now. You can actually punch this down a little bit. You don't want huge pockets right off the bat, otherwise you'll end up with big cavities inside your bread once it bakes. So now we're going to just kind of pull it, stretch it apart. I'm just pushing out a little bit more air there. And you want to kind of, when you're stretching along the bottom, you want to pull it so that the bottom kind of comes together a bit. Just still pushing out the air. So, we're good now. And still. Okay. So a huge bubble there. I think we're good. Okay, we've got a nice loaf here, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it top down in our proofing basket. We're going to cover it up and let it rise for another hour. Let that go, and we should be good to bake it after that. Okay, we've had it rising for about an hour. About 40 minutes into the rise, I turn on the oven about 500 degrees. I put my pot in the oven, so it's nice and hot now. We need to get this into the pot as fast as possible, but after an hour's rise, it's quite sticky on the bottom again. So what we're going to do is just sprinkle a little bit of flour on the bottom. And this way we can go ahead and flip it out and drop it in without it sticking to our hands. So let's get it in the oven. Okay, so we're going to bring out our pot that is at 500 degrees. And we're going to try to drop this in as fast as possible. And take our razor on a stick and we're going to cut across, right across the top. We'll get the lid back on as soon as we can and back into the oven at 500 degrees. So after about 22 minutes, I turned the temperature down from 500 to 425, and it's now been in the oven for 25 minutes. And I normally just take the lid off and set it on the stove, but I want to see if we've got the good oven spring we're looking for, so we're take a look. Oh, that's beautiful. Alright, so another 25 minutes in at 425, and that loaf will be ready to go. Okay, the sourdough is just about ready to come out of the oven. I've got the top oven rack that I pulled out so I could get my pot in there on the countertop. I'm going to pull it out and set it on there to cool. The really cool thing about sourdough is when you pull it out of the oven, just about 60 seconds after you pull it out, it starts to crackle and pop like a bowl of Rice Krispies. So I'm going to have about a minute when I pull this out to set it down, move the camera, and hopefully we can capture that. But bread's ready to come out of the oven. It's beautiful. It smells great. And it is a big, beautiful loaf. So here we go. Hopefully I can capture that crackle and pop. Alrighty, well that's how we make sourdough. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and hope somebody makes a good looking loaf of bread.